There. Your Honor, can you hear me?
Yes.
Who's Erica? Who's that?
Her daughter.
Oh. That's too bad.
All right. Can you hear me okay, Ms. Cook? You're muted.
Yes, sir.
There you go. And how about you, Mr. Nykamp? Can you hear me all right? You're muted.
Yes.
There we go. All right. This is case number 2057222. I'm sorry, 57211 PP, Nykamp versus Nykamp. Today is the date set for trial in this case. And Mr. Greer, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
You ready to proceed, Ms. Cook?
I am, Your Honor. I do ask to sequester witnesses.
That's fine. Chris,
All right. What that means.
you might want
all
to go
right.
sit out there.
Okay.
So we'll put Erica Nykamp, you're going to go back into the waiting room, so we'll put you in the waiting room.
Okay.
All right. Looks like you're the plaintiff, Ms. Cook. You can call your first witness.
Thank you. I assume that there seemed to be some kind of issue today about the court getting our trial brief. Apparently, we did not date the proof of service. Did you receive that, Your Honor?
Well, I've got it here in my file. It was logged in today, February 25th at 11:58 a.m.
Yeah, so
clearly in violation of the directive from the court at the settlement conference, which I wanted the trial briefs 7 days in advance.
and if I could say to the court, we actually sent it out 10 days in advance. Circuit Court indicated that they did not enter it into the record because we did not date the proof of service. Actually, 9 days we sent it out. I believe we sent it, 2/16 was the date that we sent it, I think. But if the court doesn't want to accept it, then I'll deal with that and I'll just make an opening statement. But whatever the court tells me to do.
Clearly just.
I know it was
When did-
posted today.
When did you mail it out, Ms. Cook?
1 second, Judge.
You told me you mailed it on the 16th?
You know what? Let me check. I want to clarify because obviously I'm not the one that does those things in my office. So. Our proof of service was dated 2/22, Your Honor, which I don't understand that because this was prepared in our office long ago, but I'll take responsibility for it.
Well, the letter from your office to the circuit court is dated February 22nd.
That's what I
So-
said. I'll take responsibility, Your Honor.
All right.
I would ask the court to accept it because I think it's helpful to the trier of fact. However, I'm more than happy to just go through it because that will be my opening statement then.
So your plan is to read your trial brief as your opening statement?
No, sir, but no, I will definitely highlight it. I don't have to give you every word for word, but what I was saying is that most of the information that I'm going to give to the court is contained in the trial brief. I will try to be a little more efficient.
Well, if you'd have just filed it on time, you wouldn't have to do that, right?
Yes, sir. As I said, this was drafted a while ago in my office. I cannot explain why I didn't get to the court sooner. I take responsibility.
All right, you can go ahead with your opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. In this matter, as the court can see, that these parties were married on April 18th of 2001. They permanently separated with exception of a small hiatus when the defendant lost housing and had to move back into the home or the apartment of my client, and they were in separate rooms. They separated May 13th of 2011, and the date of filing in this matter was July 28th of 2020. The, I think, only issue that really is before the court is the issue of division of a retirement account. We have had numerous conversations with the court on this issue by way of settlement conference. I think we had the same conversation at the final settlement conference, and then the court set this matter for trial. I think Mr. Greer and I would probably indicate we did not anticipate this to become an evidentiary issue, hoping that we could reach resolution. Obviously, we did not get there. During the course of this marriage, I think what you're going to hear is there's going to be evidence that points to the fault of the defendant, as well as the issue of contribution. We believe that the Sparks factors are going to be reviewed by this court, and we've set forth information again in the trial brief that was not timely filed, as the court's reminded me, as well as the testimony that you're going to hear. But essentially, since the parties separated, there's been no contribution made by the defendant to the marital estate. She did not acquire any retirement. She lived with three different boyfriends. She was evicted from housing. My client actually had to provide housing to her at one point, and then also had to take a loan on his 401k in the amount of $5,500 to assist her with housing. We have documents that are attached to the trial brief. We will use those as exhibits. Those have been presented, at least been shared with Mr. Greer, and they are the 401k statements, the evidence when the loan was taken, and gives the court values at particular times during this marriage. My client works for Hearthside Food Solutions. He has worked for this employer continuously. At the time that the parties separated, his retirement, even though he was working for Hearthside, was through Fidelity. Then somewhere between 2015 and 2016, the retirement was transferred to Empower Retirement. And we have those statements that we'll ask to admit to the court. The date of the planned transfer was March 31 of 2016. And on that date, there was approximately $12,000 in the account. Now, we cannot get the valuation on the date of the party separation because Fidelity no longer has those records. So the farthest that we have this going back is the date of planned transfer, 3/31/2016. We then also have evidence of the 401k loan that was taken, and we'll admit that into the evidence, which was $5,500. That was in the fall of 2016. The parties at the date of filing had the sum of $29,759.41. And then the current balance is $38,933.15. So what we are indicating to the court that we believe that the date the 401k loan taken for the defendant in that valuation, which was roughly $9,500, should be considered by the court as a potential valuation date, or at least considered by the court as evidence of contribution, because that was the last time that there was any kind of sharing of that account, any kind of, I guess, I don't even want to call it contribution, but perhaps some kind of marital intertwining, because my client took a loan and gave it to the defendant. After that, that account has continued to accumulate only by the efforts of my client, and the parties have been completely separated. Even more interesting is that since spring of 2016, the minor child, at that time, I believe a high school freshman, moved in with my client and stayed with him exclusively from that point on, having some visitation, but fairly minimal with her mother. During that time, there was no contribution by the defendant to even for child support or any kind of support to the minor child. In fact, my client continued to provide some assistance to the defendant in the amount of about $800 a month. He did that because he wanted to keep the waters kind of calm, did not want to have increased conflict, did not want to risk a custody battle with his daughter, who was wanting to stay in her father's care. So that brings us kind of to the current date. In my trial brief, I have provided to the court case law that I think is helpful. We agree that the plaintiff's retirement was accumulated during the course of the marriage and is considered marital. I'm not arguing that to the court. I am arguing that the court has some options here. The valuation date is when the court determines that a particular asset is in fact a marital asset. It must then value that asset. The court can do it on the date of trial. The court can do it on the date of judgment. The court can do it on the date of filing or a more appropriate date. It's completely within the discretion of the court and is, of course, based upon the facts and circumstances that you are going to hear. In addition, when the court goes to divide the marital estate, the court is going to be considering the Sparks factors. Those factors, as this court knows, consider the duration of the marriage, contribution of each party to the marital estate, each party's station in life, each party's earning ability, each party's age, health, and needs, fault or past misconduct, and any other equitable circumstances stated in the Sparks. One of the things that I think is very important, and this is stated in Byington versus Byington, is that the court has the possibility, I'm sorry, let me restate that. The court can, in cases, determine that the non-acquiring party is entitled to no portion of property acquired after a manifestation of intent to lead separate lives because of the difference in the party's contribution to acquisition of property. That's stated in Byington, and that's where they're citing Sparks. The premise of that is that when parties separate and create an intent to live apart and to share assets, that the court should give weight to that under the contribution. Further, this court has further in Jacobson, which is an unpublished decision, but citing to Sparks, indicates generally a court can expect to find a significantly lesser contribution by the non-acquiring spouse with respect to property acquired after public manifestation of an intent to lead separate lives than with respect to property acquired before such a manifestation. You are going to hear testimony that the parties live separately. They intended to live separately other than a brief period of time when the defendant again lost housing. My client was the one responsible after 2016 for the entire care and support of the minor child. There was no contribution by the defendant to the retirement, to any of the bills of my client, or to any of the marital estate. And based on that, Your Honor, we're asking the court to weigh that contribution heavily in determining how you're going to divide this retirement. That's the only asset that we're talking about. That's the only issue before the court that we've advised the court of on several occasions. And the testimony is going to center around the Sparks factors as well as the exhibits that we'll present to the court.
Thank you, Mr. Greer.
Your Honor, briefly, I don't dispute a lot of what plaintiff has stated in her opening statement. I think the court needs to consider a few things. Number one, the plaintiff had filed for divorce in 2010. He voluntarily chose to dismiss that divorce and stay married. Separately, separate lives, stay married. He maintained his employment, which was substantial. My client remained unemployed except for a few minor part-time jobs. She put her children first. She had a child from a previous relationship, a half sibling of apparently this child that's going to testify against her mother for some reason, and which I think is sad. But anyway, I think the court needs to consider the principles of Sparks. My client is a 55-year-old woman with a high school degree. She did not, and she will readily admit, she did not contribute to that pension, but she did contribute to the marital estate in the extent that when the parties separated, the minor daughter of the parties was approximately 9 or 10 years old. She went to live with her father because she could not get along with her mother. And the mother reached out to the father and asked if he could take the child, which we're grateful that he did. I don't believe she's living with either party now. I think she was about 15 or 16 when she went to live with the father. So for the first 15 or 16 years, this child was with the mother. My client's life status is she's employed as one of those, what do they call that? Shift drivers. She's a shift shopper at Myers, where she purchases groceries for people and delivers them to her. That is a steady enough job for her to have. That's all she can get. She's 55 years old. The plaintiff, on the other hand, who claims that they've been living separate lives for this period of time, I don't think he's 50 yet. He makes $100,000 or thereabouts a year, and he's contributing to this pension that he doesn't want her to have anything that she didn't contribute to. The necessity of this of my client is that she's 55 years old with no pension, very little Social Security contributions, and she is not in good stead at this point, Your Honor. Her earning abilities are very good. You're gonna hear the past. I was shocked when I read the brief of Ms. Cook, because it was my understanding and my client's understanding through a discussion with her husband that they were going to keep this clean. Okay, that my client was alcoholic and was drinking. Well, prior to 2000, she had 2 drunk drivings. She quit drinking that, and she was with Mr. Nijkamp for, I guess, the second one probably, and she quit her drinking. She regained her license. She did it through the help of the program. She resumed drinking for a brief period of time, or about August, hang on a minute, let me look if I may, Your Honor. February 11th, 2010, when she was visited by a gentleman by the name of Russ Snuggard, which wasn't mentioned in the plaintiff's brief. It turned out that at that point, her life had really become crashing down. A divorce had been filed at that time, and the plaintiff voluntarily ended that divorce, chose to stay married. Now, to say that these parties haven't contributed to each other is really quite untrue. They filed joint taxes together. I read in the brief, Miss Cook's brief, that a stimulus check that was received by my client for this COVID was not delivered to the plaintiff, but in April of 2020, she deposited $1,500 into his account, which would be one half of the distribution plus the balance of the joint tax returns that the parties have filed since this separation. Also, it indicated in the brief that my client has never given Mr. Nightcamp his half of the tax refunds. But be that as it may, it's not true. She has. He asked her to file 2020 taxes together, which they are about to do. And then I think number 9, I think, is the most important. The general principles of equity. These parties stayed together. My client was really in no position to get divorced. I don't know why she wouldn't. She was getting very little contributions from Mr. Nightcamp at the time. He says he paid $800 every month, and I need to know how he paid that, because I don't see it in any of the deposits that she's had in her bank account. So I need to know that. Plus, it was obviously court ordered because he chose, after a bankruptcy that he put her through, had to dismiss the divorce. So I think the court really needs to take a look at this. The case law is very clear. There's 2 ways to end a divorce: death or divorce. Neither of those have happened yet, Your Honor, through voluntary choices of their own. My client, every year that goes by, she gets no money put in any of her retirement accounts. She gets very little of his money. She also indicates that there's a $5,500 loan, which is there was a loan against that retirement account in 2016. But Mr. Nightcamp will have to admit, if he's going to be honest, that he told my client it was for his car. He did give her money for a rental or for housing, and approximately 2000. She thinks it was 2012 or 13 or 14. And we can show, Your Honor, the money from the August. The best way that we can show it to recreate it is we went back through her Huntington account for August and September and found no deposits for $5,500. I don't know how he paid her, but we found no deposits for that. She did not receive that money. She did receive, however, $3,000 prior to that. We're hoping he's confused. So, Your Honor, this is the only asset. And as I wrote this brief, I thought maybe I should be asking for alimony. But I thought, you know something, my client didn't want that. She wanted to be fair about it. And she said, no, all I need some money for my retirement. That's why I'm here. Not to have my daughter testify against me for whatever reasons. And by the way, they have not spoken since she moved in with her father. It was that bad.
Since we got her a car.
Oh, since we got her a car. I don't know when was that.
I don't recall. She was at my house for Christmas.
All right. So they don't have a good relationship. They didn't have a good relationship when she moved in with her father. And my client will go on record saying that she appreciated him stepping up and taking that child at that time, because it was a situation that was very difficult. And so, you know, to sit there and say that my client didn't contribute to this account is inaccurate. She remained married because she thought that's what he wanted. She went on to tell me, she said, I thought we got along very well. We talked on the phone a lot. You know, and here comes this brief. It's just, you know, it's horrible. And she sits there and say that she didn't do any contributions, or that she was the fault of the breakup is not fair and it's not right. She didn't want to bring up the fact of this February encounter with this person, but she's prepared to, because that's the reason why she left, or that's the reason why she said, it's over, I can't do it anymore. And so that's what we're at. We're asking for half of the account at the $38,935 minus the $3,000 that my client says he did give her, and she doesn't know where he got it, but she's trying to be fair, that he gave her at sometime in 2013 or 14. She will say she never received $5,500 from him. And she's still willing to file joint taxes.
All right, Ms. Cook, you can call your first witness.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time, we would call Eileen Nijkamp.
Hi, Ms. Nijkamp, would you raise your right hand, please? You solemnly swear, oath, or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do, Your Honor.
Ms. Nijkamp, I want to go back and I want to talk to you about prior to the separation between you and Mr. Nijkamp. Your attorney indicated in when he started his opening statement, or discussed in his opening statement, that you had 2 prior drunk drivings. Is that true?
That is true, ma'am.
Okay, when did those occur?
1997 and 2000.
Ms. Nijkamp, you need to speak a lot louder. I can't hear a word you're saying.
Okay, I'm sorry,
You-
sir.
Get right up close to that microphone.
1997 and 2000.
And both of these were prior to the marriage with Mr. Nijkamp. Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Okay, you folks were married April 18th of 2001. Is that true?
That is true, ma'am.
Did you continue to drink during the course of the marriage from 2001 until 2010?
No, ma'am.
Your attorney indicated you had some kind of relapse. When did that relapse occur?
I don't know an exact date. I know that the first one of his affairs was.
I'm not asking you, ma'am, I didn't ask you about that information. Your attorney can get it later. My question to you is, when did you relapse?
I answer that with I don't know an exact date.
How long did you drink?
There were periods of time where I would drink, and there were periods of when I wouldn't. I had kids to raise, and I'm an alcoholic, so therefore there were times when I would drink over things that, you know, obviously normal people wouldn't.
Okay, well, your attorney indicated in his opening statement that you had a short period of relapse. I think he said, and I'm sorry, I don't recall the exact dates that he wrote down, but he said it was for a short period of time. So what I'm trying to understand is, can you give me a year that this relapse started?
I don't know a year, ma'am.
Okay. Was it during the time period in which your daughter was living with you? And when I say your daughter, Erica?
Yeah, I'm sure I've drank in front of her. Yes, for sure.
Okay. And in fact, isn't that the reason why your daughter moved out of the home, is because she wanted to get away from your drinking?
Actually, what happened was it was a Christmas break, and there were behavioral issues going on with, you know, a 15, 16-year-old, and, you know, not going into all those behavioral issues. I mean, maybe if that's what she feels, I was not aware of that. I actually called Todd a few times because we were having issues with, you know, Erica, you did this or this. I need your phone. No, I'm not going to give you my phone. It's not like you can hit me. It's against the law, you know, things like that. And so Todd and I would talk quite frequently about that. and it was a Christmas
Ma'am, my
break.
question to you was a yes or no. Isn't it true your daughter moved out because of?
I'm unaware of that. No, she would,
Okay, okay,
she
that's fine.
she left for
That's
a
your
late,
answer. That's fine. I don't need an
for
explanation.
behavioral
You need
issue.
to stop. You need to stop talking over each other. So
Sorry, Your
you
Honor.
question and answer. You need to wait for the question to be done before you start answering. You need to wait for the answer to be done before there's another question. So let's do it that way.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Isn't it true that your daughter actually over a break went to her father's home and just refused to come back?
Not that I recall. No, not that I recall.
At what point in time did you actually stop drinking? Have you stopped drinking now?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you stop drinking? When was the last time you drank?
I've had approximately 8 months of sobriety now. I've had many times in the past different sobriety points, and I would, slip back. There's been some sadness with my daughter stuff, and obviously alcoholics don't handle that stuff well. And so yes, I've slipped quite a few times in the past.
So when your attorney indicated you had a short period of relapse, that's not really true. You have had a very long period of relapse. Wouldn't you agree?
No.
You have an older daughter, is that true?
Yes, I do.
And what's her name?
Her name is Emily.
And how old is Emily?
She's 24. She'll be 25 on May 20th.
And her father is not Mr. Nijkamp, correct?
That is correct.
Is it true that your oldest daughter also moved out of your care due to your drinking?
No, it is not.
How old was she when she moved out of your home?
She was 17.
And where did she go?
She went to her dad's after she got caught with her boyfriend sneaking in at night.
And how, you said at the age of 17. So if she's now, is she 24 or 25?
She will be 25 in May, ma'am.
Okay, so that was about 8 years ago. So that would have been in 2013. She moved out of the home?
I don't know the year, but yeah, she was 17.
And what year was it that Erica moved out of the home?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What year did Erica move out of the home?
When she was 15, I believe it was. So that would have been 2016.
You've had no children living in your home then since 2016?
Correct.
Have you had any overnight visitation with Erica since 2016?
No, she has not wanted to do that.
Have you paid any kind of child support, whether voluntarily or court ordered, on Erica since she went to live with her father in 2016?
No, when I offered, it was.
I didn't.
I don't need it.
Your Honor, I moved to strike. These are yes or no questions.
So the answer is no, you haven't paid any support.
Yes.
Have you sent any kind of money to Erica or clothing or anything like that since she moved in with her father in 2016?
Yes, ma'am.
What have you sent her?
She and I went shopping when she went to college, and I bought all of her dormitory items, her comforter, things like that. I bought all her makeup and some clothing for that as well. And then we purchased her a car as well.
Was
And
that after? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Was that after she reached the age of majority?
Yes. I think so.
In other words, after she was age 18?
Right, I understood that, yes.
Okay. And when you say we purchased the car, who's we?
My paramour and I,
Okay, so that's your current boyfriend?
yes.
Did you, since the time, well, let me go back. When did you and Mr. Nykamp separate?
May of 2011.
Since May of 2011, have you sent any money to Mr. Nykamp?
Other than tax money, I'm confused.
Okay, outside of tax money, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
Outside of money you received on joint filing for tax returns, have you sent Mr. Nykamp any money for his support, for his living expenses, for any of his bills?
Not that I'm aware of, just the stimulus and things.
Since separation in May of 2011, has Mr. Nykamp sent you any money for your bills, for your housing expenses?
He has sent some for child support, and he helped me once with about $3,000 for a housing thing in about 2013 or 14. I'm not sure of the date.
There is no court order for child support, is that true?
That is true.
What amount of money was he sending you?
It would vary. Typically, once I told him I had to take the kids to school from 6 until 8 and then pick them up from 2 until 4, he realized, well, it's kind of hard to get a part-time job for 4 hours a day. And I think that's when he started giving me, usually it was around 700 or 800. And I think that's because that's what I requested.
At any point in time, did he stop giving you that money?
Yeah, it wasn't consistent.
Okay, when did it stop?
I don't know the exact date it stopped. I would say a couple of years ago, but like I said, he would give me money frequently, but it wasn't all the time.
So when your attorney said he's gone through your bank records and there's no evidence that my client was giving you any extra money, you would agree he was giving you extra money?
Yeah, I'm not, yes. Yeah.
Okay. And was it just not reflected in your bank records?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you again, Ms. Cook.
Is it just that you weren't putting it in a bank account? Is there some reason it wouldn't be in your bank records?
No, maybe there was a misunderstanding between my counselor and I, but no, I told him that, I would get it sometimes.
After you separated, can you tell the court where it is that you worked?
I believe I was still at Macatawa Bank at the time.
What were you doing at that time?
Customer service.
Do you know how much you were making an hour at that time?
I do not.
Were you terminated or lose that employment at some point in time?
Yes, I no longer work there.
Okay, and what was the reason why you no longer work there?
Probably absenteeism.
Were you fired from that position?
Yes.
Did you immediately obtain another position, or were you on a period of layoff or without employment for a while?
I had no unemployment for a while.
Okay. How long did you go without being employed?
I am not sure.
What was your next employment?
I watched some friends' kids, so I don't know if you want to call that daycare or nanny or.
Do you know approximately when you were fired from Macatawa Bank? Kind of a year, maybe?
I do not.
You don't have any idea the last time you worked there?
I do not.
How long did you actually work at Macatawa Bank?
Year and a half.
And do you have any idea when you started watching these, your friends' kids?
I don't.
Do you know how long you watched your friends' kids?
It was off and on for a couple of years.
When you say off and on, what does that mean?
Breaks and things when the parents would be home.
And how much were you making doing that?
About 200 a week.
How long were you without employment between Macatawa Bank and watching your neighbor's kids?
Probably a year.
After you stopped watching your friends' kids, did you then have another period of unemployment?
I cleaned for a friend of Todd's for a while.
And how long did you clean for that friend?
Probably about a year.
And how much you make doing that?
I don't remember, honestly. I want to say $10 an hour cash.
And did you do that once a week?
No, it would vary when he had availabilities on cottages and houses to clean.
Okay, so just to give me an idea, what would be a rough amount or an estimate that you'd make weekly doing that?
A few $100s.
How long did you do that, clean houses?
I answered that. It was about a year, I think, like I said.
Okay. And then did you pick up another job right away, or did you have another period where you weren't working?
I was probably just, I don't even remember what years these were at this point. So I probably not.
Probably not. What, you didn't work for a period of time?
Probably no. Taking the kids to school was, 4 hours ordeal at the time.
Uh-huh. But the last time you did that was in 2016, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well, actually,
So-
before.
So you cleaned houses, and then what was the next job you had?
I do shipped currently.
Okay, so the last job you had before shipped was cleaning houses?
No, I worked some places for cash, things like that, but nothing like Todd has.
Okay, well, I understand that, but I'm asking what you did, not what Todd was doing. So before you worked for Ship, you said you cleaned houses, but that's when you had some kids in the house, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it must have been before 2016, right?
Yes.
Were you continuing to clean houses after 2016?
No, not for that same person, no.
Okay, has there been anything that's precluded you from having full-time employment since May of 2016 when your daughter went to live with her father?
No.
Have you had full-time employment since 2016 continuously?
Yes. I do shipped right now, so that's been about a year and a half, 2 years.
Okay, we'll come back to that in a second. But I guess my question is, since May of 2016, other than working for Shipped, have you had any other full-time employment?
No.
Okay. So this Shipped job, how many hours a week you're working at that?
It varies between 30 and 55, 60.
How much you making doing that?
About 30 grand a year.
Since you've been working full-time, at any point in time, did you send any money over to Mr. Nykamp to help with his expenses or contribute to the marriage in any way?
Nope.
All right, let's talk about where you were living after you folks separated. So let's start with this. Where were you folks living when you lived together?
In our marital home
And where was that?
in Zeeland, Michigan.
Then when you folks separated, did you stay in the marital home, or did Todd stay in the marital home, or did you guys sell it?
No, it went to foreclosure.
So did you both move out of that home?
Yes, we did.
Is it true that you moved in with a boyfriend?
No, it is not.
Okay, did you move in with anybody that somebody might have thought was a boyfriend?
I moved in with a friend of mine named Brian.
And you're stating that was not a boyfriend.
At the time, it was not, no.
Did it become your boyfriend?
I'm sorry, what?
Did it become your boyfriend?
Yes, it did.
And did he become your boyfriend during the time period you were living there?
Yes.
How quickly after you moved in did you become his girlfriend and sleep in the same room?
I don't know the dates or anything.
How long did you live at Brian's house?
About a year. I was just grateful that a friend reached out and offered my kids and I a place.
Did he charge you anything to stay there?
Yes, I paid some rent.
And then after you moved out from Brian, did you move in with a fellow by the name, I think, of Shannon?
Yes, another friend.
That was just a friend too?
Well, I knew he was interested in me. He told my friends he would do anything to make me love him, but he knew right then when we moved in that it was a friend. Yes.
Well,
it was-
I'm going to object to what he knew, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Okay, so you moved in with him. Were you romantically involved with him while you stayed there?
We tried to make a relationship, but it wasn't. No, I guess, yes, we dated.
And was that while Erica was living with you?
Yes. Obviously.
And how long did you live at Shannon's home?
Probably about a year and a half, something like that. I don't know exactly.
Did you move into somebody's condominium after that?
I rented a condo.
Did you default on that rent or get evicted?
I didn't get evicted, but I was behind on my rent, and they said they were going to start renting to their child anyway.
How long were you in that rental?
A couple of years, I believe.
Where did you go after you moved out of the condo?
I think that might have been when Todd said that Erica and I could come stay there for a short time in his apartment.
Was that a romantic situation or was it simply so you had some housing?
It was a friendship as well. Todd and I are good friends.
Okay, was it romantic?
No, ma'am.
Okay, did you sleep in a separate room from Todd?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you sleep in the same room as Erica during that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know approximately what year it was that you would have moved in with Todd when you didn't have housing?
Probably 2005, late 2014, 2015. I don't actually, and I apologize for that.
Where did you go after you moved out of Todd's apartment?
I got an apartment in Grand Haven.
Did you move in with someone?
No, ma'am. My daughter stayed there quite a bit, my older daughter.
How long did you stay in that apartment in Grand Haven?
Probably a year and a half. I don't know for sure.
Then did you move in with Chris?
I sure did, yes.
Chris is your current boyfriend?
Yes.
And do you have any idea in what year you moved in with Chris?
January 2017.
Is it safe to say that since the period in time in May of 2011 that you and Mr. Nykamp did not have any kind of romantic relationship?
I believe there was one attempt at it, but yes, that's fair to say.
And absent that short period of time in which you lived in Mr. Nykamp's apartment with your daughter, there was an intent that you guys would live apart, correct?
I'm sorry, maybe I don't understand the question. I apologize.
That's okay. I can re-ask it, and maybe better. Since May of 2011, with the exception of that short period of time that you lived with Mr. Nykamp for housing reasons, was it your intent to continue to live apart from Mr. Nykamp?
Yes,
To your knowledge, did Mr. Nykamp also have other relationships since the time period you two separated?
yes, he did.
And I guess I should say that differently, other romantic relationships?
Yes, he did. Paramours, if you will. Sorry.
Let's talk about these joint tax returns.
Yes,
So these tax returns, you have been filing joint since 2011, correct?
probably yes, I believe so.
And probably in fairness, you've been filing jointly since you got married, right?
Yes,
Okay. And tell me, the first year that you filed jointly, what happened to the tax return?
I would assume that we split it. There was 1 year I did not split it with him.
So is it your testimony here today that every time you folks filed a joint return that, well, first of all, where did the joint return go? Did it go to your address or did it go to Mr. Nykamp's address?
It went to both of our accounts. 1 year, a few years it went to his, and a few years it went to mine.
Okay. How many years did it go to your account?
I have no idea, Ms. Cook.
So
I don't know.
if Mr. Nykamp tells us that there were only 2 out of the 10 years that you two have been filing jointly since separation, that he received any portion of that refund, are you saying he's not being truthful?
I would have to say yes. I know there, like I said, I would have to say yes. I haven't checked my accounts. I know 1 year I purposely didn't give him half, which was wrong. But as far as I know or recall, I don't believe there were only 2 years that he got half.
Now, your attorney indicated that in April of 2020 or whenever the stimulus came in 2020, you shared that with Mr. Nykamp, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. But that's because it was part for him and part for you, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, have you received any stimulus checks in 2021?
Yes, I have.
Have you kept them?
Yep.
And is it true that those are for both you and Mr. Nykamp?
Yeah, his is in my savings waiting for this divorce proceeding thing.
Have you told him you had it?
We weren't supposed to talk, I guess.
Is there some order that says you can't communicate with Mr. Nykamp?
That's what both of our attorneys advised us.
Did you tell your attorney that you had the 2021 stimulus check sitting there?
I just told him today when we discussed it. There was no reason to bring it up. I set it aside for him for when this was all set.
Did you help Mr. Nykamp kind of determine how he was going to invest his 401k or what stocks to purchase or anything like that?
No, we didn't discuss that together, no.
Did you, after May of 2011, have any say on where he worked or any jobs he took?
He would ask advice on it. Yeah, we were quite close. So no, he asked advice on things about that.
At some point in time, Mr. Nykamp moved out of the state of Michigan. Is that true?
That is true.
And where'd he move to?
Idaho.
And do you know when he moved to Idaho?
I believe it was March or April of last year. I don't know. He texted me the day he left. So I think it was February or something. And then, yeah,
And did you have anything to do with him leaving?
I gave him advice and told him I would do it if it were me. I mean, he asked my advice. I'm not sure if that's the point you're making, but he asked my advice, and he's lived in Zealand his whole life. And I said, you know what? I think it'd be a great opportunity for you. So yes. Excuse me, sorry.
You indicated you've been living with your boyfriend since 2017, correct?
Yes,
And where do you live currently? You don't have to give me an address, just the area.
Fremont, Michigan.
Is your boyfriend employed?
Yes, he is.
And does he own the home that you're in?
Yes, he does.
Is your name on that home?
No, it is not.
Do you contribute to the expenses there?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I understand since May of 2011, when you folks separated, when you moved in with Brian, you contributed to his expenses at his home, correct?
Yes,
And then you moved in with Shannon and you contributed to his expenses in his home, correct?
I'm not sure I did at Shannon's. I think it was I don't know that I did for sure or not there. So I guess that's an unsure on that.
And then when you were in the condo in Grand Haven, you paid for some of that but got behind, true?
In Holland?
Holland, sorry about that. Yes.
That's okay. Yes, I did.
Okay. And so when you lived with Brian or Shannon or lived in the condo in Holland, did you contribute it all to the expenses of Mr. Nykamp?
No, I did not.
Were you living, when you came back and lived with Mr. Nykamp for a period of time because you didn't have housing, did you contribute to his expenses?
I don't remember. Probably not a lot if I did.
And since you've been living with Chris, you indicated that you do contribute to his expenses, correct?
Yes, I do.
How much was the 2021 stimulus?
1,200 total. So the 600 would be half.
Have you ever worked anywhere long enough to accumulate a retirement?
No, ma'am. Apparently not.
Have you accumulated any kind of investments?
No, ma'am.
Can you tell me financially what you've contributed to the marital estate?
Financially, just
Yes.
when I was working. Obviously, we pooled our money then.
So that would have been mostly prior to you folks separating.
Right.
Would you agree you've made no contribution to this marriage since you have separated?
Financially, or are you talking about our children?
Financially?
Financially, no.
So your attorney indicated that for the first 15 to 16 years of Erica's life, that the child lived exclusively with you. So I want to
Yeah,
understand that. What year was Erica born?
2001.
Okay. So she was born approximately the time period or close in time to when you got married.
Yeah, we joked about that we were going to put it off as long as we could, close to her birth date for his dad's purpose.
Okay. So at any rate, the first 10 years of the marriage, Erica lived with both of you, right?
Yes,
Okay. Then we have that she lives with you for approximately the next 4 or 5 years after the
Yes.
separation. Although
Yes.
there's an entire year that she and you are living in Mr. Nykamp's apartment, correct?
yes, but he wasn't, yes,
Okay. So there's about 3 years exclusively that she's primarily living in your care and custody, right? After
Um,
separation?
it's closer to 4.5 or 5.
Well, but there was a year in there that you were living in Mr. Nykamp's apartment, correct?
Yes, but
Okay.
he wasn't there very often.
What was the visitation arrangement after you separated and prior to Erica moving in with her father?
He had her every other weekend when I could get her to go.
And then what, did you do anything different in the summers?
No,
You folks actually, there was a filing for divorce in 2010, correct?
yes, there was.
Okay. And at that time, you met with the friend of the court and they did determine a child support amount at that time, correct?
Yes,
However, the divorce was dismissed, so no child support order, right?
no, not through front of the court, no.
Okay. But Mr. Nykamp continued, as I think you testified, giving you money, right?
Yes, he would help me, he would help out.
Now, even after Erica moved in with him, did he give you money?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And did you invest that or put that in retirement or do anything like that?
No, I think I answered earlier, I don't have, a retirement or anything.
Okay. What year did you file for bankruptcy?
It was either late 2009 or early 2010.
And did you and Mr. Nykamp file jointly?
I believe so, yes.
So this was prior to separation.
Yes, it was.
So when your attorney indicated in an opening statement that my client put you through bankruptcy, you were both going through bankruptcy, correct?
Yes, we were.
One second, Judge. There are no minor children currently living in your home, true?
That is true. That is true.
And the only other person that you have care of or has care of you essentially is your boyfriend.
I have care of myself and he has care of himself, yes.
How's your health?
Seems to be doing very well. Thank you. A little scratchy throat.
Are you currently having any difficulty in paying your contribution to Chris at his home?
No, I have paid him the monthly rent and utilities for however, I don't know, 3 years, 4 years, however long I've been there.
Okay, I don't have any other questions of this witness, Your Honor.
Any questions, Mr. Greer?
Real briefly, Your Honor. Ms. Nykamp, why did you and your husband go bankrupt?
Todd lost a job from stealing from a coffee can, and we were living above our means at the time.
All right.
We had bought too many things, too many toys, and
Were you working during this period prior to while Todd was working?
no, I was staying home with the children until he lost his job.
And was that something that you guys agreed on or what?
Yes, we agreed I was going to raise the kids.
So until 2010.
Mr. Greer, you need to sit closer to the microphone.
I do, Your Honor?
You do, or you need to speak, not talk down.
I'm sorry. Usually I'm told to shut up. I'm sorry, Your Honor. That was kind of the agreement that the two of you had, correct?
Yes.
All right. And so at that time,
I don't know what year he lost. I don't know what year he came home and he was fired and everything fell apart financially for both of us. So I went to work and he found a job right away.
where did you go to work?
Max Television.
And you said you were terminated because of absenteeism. Why was that?
I was the one who, when the kids were sick, had to be there.
All right. It wasn't because of alcoholism.
I've never lost a job due to alcoholism.
All right. So when the kids got sick or something, you had to take care of it.
Had to and wanted to, yes.
All right. After the two of you separated at sometime in 2011, and you and the children lived with Brian, right?
Yes.
Where did Todd live?
He found his own apartment.
Did Todd ever take children with him while you were living with Brian?
He did not.
Other than for visitation?
No, he did not offer.
Did he ever complain to you about living with Brian?
No, he did not.
All right. Was the next guy Shannon?
Yes.
All right. Where was Todd living when you lived with Shannon?
Still in his apartment.
And where were the children?
Still with me.
In Shannon's apartment.
In Shannon's home, yes.
Home. Todd ever complain about Shannon?
No, we had Todd over for football games.
All right. When you ceased living with Shannon, was that when you needed Todd's help to get into a place?
Yes.
And was that in Holland?
Yes, it was.
That was the condo in Holland.
Yes.
And was that when you recall borrowing the money?
Yes, it was for the condo.
How much do you think that was?
It was between 2,800 and 3,000, something like that.
Okay, you were good enough friends with Todd to reach out and ask him.
Todd used to come over on Saturday mornings and we'd compare our dates. He would come over for coffee and we would.
I can't hear that.
I'm sorry. I said Todd would come over on Saturday mornings and we would have coffee and talk about our dates that we'd had or.
So he didn't have a problem giving you or loaning you that money.
I would assume. No, it didn't seem like he would. He didn't seem like he did.
He was angry. Okay. this $5,500, that was not for this move?
No, it was not.
And how do you recall that it wasn't for that move?
First off, I looked back at my statements and there was no $5,500. Second off, I remember
I
him.
can't hear you again.
Hang on, Your Honor, maybe I can pull it closer to her.
Whoever thought I'd be tired.
Who's this? How's that, Your Honor?
It's okay. I'm not sure it's necessarily the problem with how loud she's talking. Sometimes it just quiets down and then it comes back louder again. So it's kind of
Okay.
more of a connection thing than her, but we can keep going.
She's never been accused of being quiet.
What I recall is Todd had a blue Mazda, which we called Mini. And I remember him saying to me that he bought a new car at Marv's. And I said, well, you must be rolling in it. And he said, no, I took a loan out on my 401k for it. That's what I recall. He did help me again at some point, well before 2016, with approximately $3,000. So that he did help me with, but the 5,500 was not mine. I have no record of it.
All right. And when you guys separated in 2000, the divorce was filed when you guys separated in 2011. Whose idea was it to separate?
I think because we had no home, it was sort of a kind of like a, hey,
Now's the best time.
we didn't necessarily, there was no discussion of we're going to separate. It was, well, that's a bummer. We don't have a home anymore.
All right. Again, when it was when you guys have filed joint taxes, whose idea was it to file joint taxes?
I think it was I think it was both. I think we both agreed.
All right. And Todd made substantially more money than you, correct?
Obviously, yes.
And what do you figure he makes?
Last year he made about 97.
Okay. And when I said that he didn't pay you monthly support during the time before the child moved in with him, I was mistaken, correct? You never told me that?
No, I told you he gave me some.
Some, okay. So, all right. Do you own a home now?
I do not personally own a home now.
Does Todd own a home now?
He rents an apartment in Idaho.
Okay. Did you make contributions during the marriage prior to the separation?
Yes,
Contributions in what way?
financial, and I raised the kids.
All right. And you continued to raise them until your daughter moved in with Todd.
Yes, I did.
Right. And did you reach out to Todd for help with her?
Yes, I did.
And what did he say?
We were trying to help, through the phone and things.
I didn't understand that.
Sorry, sir. I would call him and he would,
Offer suggestions and things.
And then it just it got to the point where it wasn't working, and she
she
didn't.
wasn't listening to me, and
I'm sorry, Your Honor. It
You're
came.
both cutting in and out.
All right. I don't know why.
It's because you're leaning back and talking to the side.
I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. It came to the point where you couldn't control it. correct?
She just wouldn't listen.
And
to
she
me.
didn't want to be with you, correct?
That was where it seemed, yes.
All right, and Todd took her and got her through school.
Yes.
All right.
I'm grateful for that.
All right. And at that time, were you drinking a lot, do you recall, or?
No, I was drinking then off and on, yes.
All right. When I said that you had a few, I don't remember the term I used, but it made it sound like it was brief bouts with the alcoholism again. What would explain to the court what that means? What I meant by that.
Well,
Like,
I
would you
think I'm gonna
drink for
object.
years?
I'm not sure. First of all, that's not what Mr. Greer said.
Can you
Mr.
help
Greer
me and tell me what
indicated
I
that
said?
she resumed drinking briefly in February 11th of 2010. And
Mhm.
secondly, I'll object because I don't think that she can testify as to what Mr. Greer meant.
I'll
I also
rephrase,
stated-
Your Honor. I'll rephrase. When you started drinking again after your term of sobriety, how long would those episodes last?
You know, I don't have a certain amount of time. I was taking the wrong steps by not attending my meetings again and lost touch with my sponsor. I really don't have dates on that, to be honest. Has my daughter seen me drink? Yes. She's seen both of us drink. She's seen both of us drunk. I guess I would like to say something about the brief, if I may, about the.
Well, just wait. Okay. Do you feel that your drinking was the reason for the breakdown of this marriage?
No, I do not.
Do you feel that it was brought, well, let me rephrase that. Was it ever brought to your attention by Todd that you're drinking too much?
That I don't know. Probably not. He didn't really say much
All right.
at the time.
After the separation, you had bouts of drinking, correct?
Yes.
And you had the children with you, correct?
Yes, I did.
The children meaning your child and your child from a different relationship and yours and Todd.
Yes.
And that was for approximately about 5 years, with 1 year being with Todd.
Yes.
Do you feel that you and Todd shared those tax returns to the best of your knowledge?
To the best of my knowledge, like I said, I know there was 1 year, right or wrong, I purposely was like, he's not getting them. Sorry, Todd. I do know that. To the best of my knowledge, all the other years we shared, and I was continuously asked to do them. So,
By whom?
Todd,
All right. And the stimulus check that came a couple of, I don't even know when it came. First of all, I don't know why it came, but I don't know when it came, was about a month ago or two?
something like that. Yeah, the latest one. Yeah.
Did you separate that money?
I have. Yes, I have. I did not give it to Todd yet,
Right,
like I did the first one,
right.
but I have his set aside. I have his 600 set aside in an account. Yes, but I did not give it to him yet.
Right. How old are you?
55.
What's your education?
Some college courses.
Is this what you would consider a good job that you have now?
I love what I'm doing now. I make a difference in people's lives. Do I think it's a good job? Like it could be a career? Most people would not make it a career, no.
Have any investments?
Just my children.
So have you been able to contribute to Social Security?
Not a lot, no.
Why didn't you file for divorce?
After, in 2010, a second or third affair had come to my attention, and I wanted to believe Todd when he said this one was also not true. That's why I wanted to believe Todd. I wanted to keep our family together.
But I don't mean then, I mean from 2011 until now. I've been with Chris for 3 years.
5.
5 years. Why didn't you file for divorce?
That is a good question. I think Todd and I both just got lazy. I think we both just didn't think
I
of
didn't
it.
hear that. I didn't hear the first part of that response.
I apologize, Judge. I honestly, I don't know why. I probably should have, but I think Todd and I both just got lazy and comfortable in the fact that we were, still married, and neither one of us went out of our way to refile.
Did it ever concern you that you didn't have any pension or anything?
I don't know about concern me. I know it weighs on me because, I wanted to go back to school when the kids were little, but I didn't. Todd's like, well, what you want to go to school for? You're not going to make much. And it weighs on me. I don't know about concerns, but it weighs on me.
What do you ask this court to do?
I guess just be fair, and consider, my contributions were more at home.
Now, you have some emails that you told me that you did not want me to include in the brief.
I can't hear you.
You have some emails that you told me you did not want to include in the brief. You want to explain those or just let it go?
I thought Todd and I have been very good.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
I don't know if it's the fault of this computer or what. I mean, we're almost sitting on this thing.
You're good right now.
Judge, I hate to touch a button, but I'm gonna. How's that? It's at 100% now. That better?
Can you hear us now?
Yeah, it just comes and goes. So go ahead. You start
I'm
with.
sorry, Your Honor. This is a new computer because of what happened the last time I used it, the other one. So
You probably blew the last speaker out. I did not want to include the emails because, and I will apologize right now, Ms. Cook and Your Honor. You can ask Todd. I cry over everything, so I apologize for that. I'm trying not to. Todd and I's relationship, we've been extremely close the past 10, 11 years. We've shared a lot, and I did not want to include these emails because I didn't think it was a fault thing. I thought we were going to be fair and kind. When I got Ms. Cook's brief, I think today's the first day I haven't cried over it because it makes me sound like an alcoholic slut. Do I want to, and excuse my language, Your Honor, do I want to include the emails from one of the women from one of the paramours of Todd. I have them. I have the down and dirty, but I
Sarah,
don't.
I'm just gonna object for a second. She's describing an exhibit that has not been admitted, nor have I seen it. It wasn't exchanged or provided to us at any point in time.
Well, none of
So
yours.
I would object to her testifying about it or from it. It hasn't been admitted. And secondly, if they're going to move to admit it, it would contain hearsay from another person. And third, I've never seen it.
Well, Your Honor, I've never seen a brief until I guess it was yesterday from her and her exhibits that she asked the court to consider. And so, I can get the person in, or she can testify as to what happened that she saw. So she doesn't have to rely on the email. She can testify as to what she saw. I think she's choosing not to.
She can't testify to statements in emails that are made by a third party other than my client.
You want me to bring it? I'll tell the story if you want me to, Sean. It has nothing to do with the email. The email merely backs it up.
Judge, I don't know what the intent is. I'm just indicating unless they're going to admit an exhibit that's admissible, they can't discuss an exhibit.
I think we can discuss an exhibit that's not admissible. She can tell what started the whole situation. But you know something? I'm going to withdraw, Your Honor. Doesn't want to bring it in. I'm not going to bring it in. I'm withdrawing it. I'll withdraw the whole line of questioning.
All right, well, so I'm a little bit confused. So we've got something about some emails, and I don't know who they're from or what it's all about. I don't know any sort of time frame when it was, but the kind of the overarching theory was that Ms. Nykamp took offense to Ms. Cook in the brief, basically saying it was Ms. Nykamp's fault for the divorce. Mr. Greer, you were following up with information that I presumed was going to counter that it was Ms. Nykamp's fault. But from there, I didn't receive any information or foundation enough to make any ruling on it. And at this point, Mr. Greer, you're withdrawing the question. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor, I can get it through. If I should decide, I can certainly get it in through Todd Nykamp.
Okay, all right. So then I'll sustain the objection. Do you have any other questions for Ms. Nykamp?
I don't think so. No. No, Your Honor.
All right, any redirect to Ms. Cook?
Yes, just a couple of things. I just want to make sure that your attorney asked if you'd made contributions to the marriage. You said you contributed to the home, correct?
I said I contributed to the marriage with financial and support and raising our children.
And that was all prior to separation, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
All right. So we've been at it for an hour and a half. We're going to take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 3:10 according to my clock. I've got exactly 3 o'clock where we will resume testimony. So we're supposed to be in recess for 10 minutes.
Is it possible to put my client and I in a breakout room?
Yes?
That would be great. Then I can kind of talk to him in between since he's not here in my office.
All right.
Thank you very much.
So you can stop the live stream.
I got it.